Hello, hello. Welcome, Riya Goel, to the Yellow Room, a wantonly optimistic podcast hosted by your friend Benjamin Chipman. Get cozy, get comfy, grab a coffee, and let's get intimate. So Riya, for everyone here, who are you?
Who am I? I ask myself that a lot too. But I am the author of the Gen Z book. I'm also currently a student at Barnard. And yeah, I've done a lot that I feel like sometimes I can't explain. I've worked at VC funds, I've worked in Web3, I've worked in PR, and also Gen Z consulting. So, been a lot of places, learned a lot
Wow.
of things. But I'm fully vibing. I'm writing my next book currently, working on a startup and starting some very cool women exclusive spaces because women still are not receiving the gender equity that we deserve. And here I am. Here I am. I fully came from an activist background, worked in the UN and
Okay.
school, did a lot of policy work, and yeah, led me to kind of really caring about youth in our generation and really how we are agents for change and for betterment, and really believe in the power of Gen Z. So yeah, here I am.
That says so much happening. There's left, right. I'm
No,
trying
I
to
am the
follow
embodiment
along.
of everything everywhere all at once. And like trying to take a step back and being like, okay, let's figure out let's break each and every one of those three down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think, actually, wait, no, we get to that later. I was like, there's so much I want to dig into there. Um, as just to set this up, like, would you consider yourself an optimistic person?
I think so. I think I couldn't like operate if I didn't have optimism because there's honestly just so much going on that isn't lovely, right, in our world. And, through my work, I've been able to experience a lot of it. And sometimes it's really easy to give up and to kind of get
Yeah,
caught up in a lot of the weight. Like, on an individual level, what I do may not make a difference, right? But then that's why we do the work that we do and we get involved in causes and start really trying to make that change. So yeah, I think optimism is part of the fabric. It's needed, and can't operate without it.
is it in the book? Did it make the cut?
Maybe the next one.
The next one, it's the next chapter. It's
Yeah,
coming. It's the updated version.
updated.
But let's talk about the book. What was the impetus behind writing it? What inspired you to start it?
Yeah, like I was saying before, like I came from this really heavy activism background. I saw like youth being put in these big spaces like the UN, and the UN
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, we care about you." But then they didn't, right? And that happened at the UN
Mm,
and other spaces, right? Like it was a very performative "we care about you." Um, while Gen Z is out here changing election results and fully like making real tangible change, delving into their interests. And I was like, wait, why are we doing so much at a young age? Like, it's not like, this
right.
need for change is new because that's happened throughout generations, right? And youth have always been at the forefront of it. Why Gen Z? Why now? And that was like a big question for me. And honestly, like the book was going to be a couple of op-eds, and I'd be like, this is what I found in my research. This is who I interviewed. But I started doing the interviews, and then I got really interested. I was like, wait, I have the same insights from literally a fashion designer and a cook and a marketer. Why are they all saying the same thing?
Yeah,
Right?
that's kind of crazy.
Right, like that's insane, right? And so then I was like, okay, maybe this means more than just, writing and then getting it published somewhere. I like want this to be a collective. And
Mm,
so from there, I really did more interviews. I delved into it. I did more research. I was like, okay, let's examine why Gen Z, why now, and what really poises us as this generation for change. And I think a big one of my favorite chapters in the book is access to resources. We are internet natives, truly. Like we have this inherent little BS filter that we can go online and be able to tell what's fake, what's not instantly, essentially. And so a lot of what we're doing can kind of be passed to this BS filter. And then, we can be like, wait, I can call this out because this isn't right. wait, I can like do something to remedy this because that's something that I can identify as wrong. So we have a lot of these kind of innate mechanisms that we've picked up through being on the internet for so long. And then we also know how to use it to our advantage, and use it as a resource. So yeah, I thought, Gen Z is really making these strides, and someone needs to talk about it. And here I am.
That's so badass.
Thank you.
Like, no, but honestly, like, at the end of the day, to be like, you know what, I'm interested in this, let me just do it. Because I think there's such a hesitation from people, and I myself too. Like, how long had I thought about putting together this podcast before it really came to fruition? Like, it's just, I feel like it's hard to really sit down and motivate yourself to do something. So that's sick. That's so cool that you did it. And I think there's
comes out to nothing. We're young, right? We're allowed to have a fuck up. We're allowed to, really just experiment. This is the time, right? And I feel like a lot of us have had that opportunity to be able to do that, right? And that's what makes us better people, right? Like, we can have fun with these things, right? Like, is my book the most successful thing on the planet? Is a New York Times bestseller? No. But I'm so happy that I went through with the process. I have a tangible that was a reflection of my work. And I'm inspired to write another one because in a totally different way, like I'm taking a totally different approach with my second book.
cool.
But you're living, learning, and loving, really. Like, and so I think it's just a reflection of how like our generation is just this like resilient, we can always do it generation if we put our minds to it.
We can always do it.
Yeah.
I think, you just see people, or at least I do, and I'm like, how? Like, how do you find the time? And I think that's a question I have for you, for sure, as someone who is constantly, involved in so much. And, you're writing your second book. You are involved in a lot of activism. You're a full-time student. Like, homegirl, you're working essentially 4 full-time jobs. Like, what is your structure?
Yeah. I asked myself that a lot. Last year, I was literally working, I think, like 6 to 8 jobs at any given point. And, like, sure.
Wait, pause.
Yeah.
6 to 8 jobs?
Mm-hmm.
Babes.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
Like, honestly, a lot of this and a lot of, like, the world is so, like, it's so fucked. I need to do stuff. Like, it was this, like, if I'm not going to do it, who will? Honestly, that kept my motivation going. And I will be transparent and say I fully experienced burnout. And that's why I've scaled down. And, like, I'm not working the jobs that I was working. And I had to take a step back and analyze, hey, like, what is really fueling me? And what's giving me the motivation and like constantly refueling motivation. It's one thing to have the motivation internally, right? But it's like kind of like a car, right? You have the car, but who's filling up the gas? Who's telling me every time, like, I'm giving back to you and like I'm filling your purpose? Right. And so I felt like a lot of the jobs that I was doing didn't do that. And although I learned a lot, I couldn't it wasn't sustainable for me. And so, yeah.
And so you are currently a sophomore, correct?
Yes.
So, just question, how many years of work experience do you have?
I mean, I started working at 14, so
at 14, years. Right?
Yeah.
And if you were to apply to a job tomorrow, how many years of work experience would they probably recognize you as having?
Probably 1, not even. Probably not.
This is ridiculous.
It just, like, it's funny that you say that because, I am in the process of kind of just like recruiting for a couple of things. And it's very interesting to kind of go through that process, having had the experience I have, because we have 2 polar opposite sides. So one side is saying, what are you doing? Like, you should totally abandon all of your experiences. Like, totally disregard, make sure that your experiences are more tailored to the job you're applying to,
right?
And just like ignore. one advisor of mine who is an ex-advisor now,
He was cut, fired.
She's done. She literally said, use your book, like put it in the background, don't really mention it. And I'm like, have you written a book, Miss Girl? Like, what is going on? I was like, why in any world would I do that? So that was there. And then the other side is, you know, you have so much work experience. Are you even focused at all? Like, do you know what you're doing? Like, you have all of these things. You've done all of these things. How have you done all of these things? Like, there's all of these questions. And then I'm like, why can't we just validate the work that I've done? Like, why is that
literally
so hard?
I think the thing with how have you done all these things is something that Gen Z gets hit with a bunch. And I mean, obviously I can't speak for everyone, but I know at my job, one of my coworkers said to me, how many lives have you lived?
Yep.
Because there was just always, I don't know, I always had an anecdote or a story. It was like, oh, when I was living here or when I was working this. And there was just one day, it was like 8 weeks into my internship, she turned to me and goes, like, who are you? And, you know, there's such a big shift that comes from this, with just this generation, because we've had so much chance and opportunity that, like, you can look at your LinkedIn profile and you have 23 plus experiences listed.
Yeah, and people are like, wait, that's not possible. Like, you haven't, that's like, you're making stuff up, or like, you know, you just know people at the companies and they'll like vouch for you if we ask. I'm like, no, genuinely, I have done work here, right? And like, it's made me the person that I am. I can talk about every one of these experiences, they've been formative. And I'm exactly with you. Like, you know, I'll go out to a networking event and then people, you know, will ask me about my experiences, and then I'll pull out a random anecdote and they're like, wait, you're only 18. How did you do that? Like, how are you in this room? How are you at this office? Like, make it make sense. And I'm like, this is just how it is. And like, honestly, if you have a drive and any kind of motivation, you can make it. It's the playing field is a lot more level, because we have this beautiful thing called the internet. We have LinkedIn, where you can basically reach out to any exec ever. You can make
crazy.
I know, it's like,
it's kind of cool.
Wait, now I kind of do have access. Like, it doesn't have to be my daddy's network anymore. Like, I can absolutely network, and I spent an entire summer doing that. Like, when I was in high school, I would pretty much get on networking calls. I get on, like, you know, anywhere from 5 to like 7 every day. That's how every day. And I built my network. Like, I got it from, I don't know, like 500 to around like 4,000 at that time. Of course, since then it's just kind of built itself. But yeah, like it was fully that's what I was doing. I was learning from everyone, and I was like, hey, I want to get on a call. I want to understand like what your job title means. Like, what does that mean?
Literally.
I'm like, okay, associate director at this and this and this, and like I do that and that, and I'm like, wait, write that down.
Like, I don't understand. Like, that's my favorite thing when I'm on with someone. Like, I read your entire profile. I'm still lost. I don't know. Please.
Please explain. Like, it's in the dictionary somewhere, but I don't know what all these words together mean. And so, yeah, like, I learned a lot. I was like, wait, and it was really good to be able to have done that in high school, I think, because, you know, when you're in high school, when you're even in college, like, a lot of careers seem very linear. It seems like, okay, if I'm an econ major, like, I have to go into finance, or like, you know, there's somewhat of like set tracks. The world is like crazy. There are so many jobs. Like, I was talking to a friend last night, and she was like, you know, my aunt is a biomimicry architect, as in she like studies patterns in nature and replicates them in architecture, so like humans feel like warm and fuzzy and like, you know, feel good going into these buildings, and like it incites this feeling of, oh my god, like I'm in nature.
That's so cool.
Wow, like that's a thing? You have to be kidding me. Like, I don't even know what you have to major in to get into that.
Is it forestry or is it architecture? Like...
Or is it like advice-side sustainable development? Like, what is it? So yeah, like that's the world we live in, where like and I, in high school, I talked about my Instagram bio was intersectional feminist. And I still use that. Intersectionality has always, like, once I learned that concept, I never looked back. And it's been at the foundation of truly anything I, talk about. It's truly like, I look at it as an umbrella issue, take any issue, and then like you can literally chart it out to be intersecting with anything. So you can find an issue and like find another issue and find some sort of beautiful intersection. Why not? Like that's what our world is made of. These intersections, these like great serendipitous moments where we're finding connection.
Totally. So, question back on the networking stuff and that such. Why'd you start? Like, what was the thing that you were like, I have to do this?
Yeah. Honestly, and I'll be very transparent, I always am, like, it was to get into college. I was like, why'd you pick X institution? Like, really, what attracted you to go here? And that was the lens that I networked a lot for. Because I went to a very diverse high school, there wasn't like a lot of help necessarily on the college search or admissions. And, I'm the first in my family in the US to go to college. So it was very much like, okay, here's the college admissions process on you. Like,
right, there's no guidebook.
No. And it's not a linear process. It looks very different for every applicant. And ironically, I mean, I didn't know this when I was networking, but I mean, I applied during COVID. And so I didn't even get to take an SAT. Right. I didn't get to do a lot of like traditional things. So that was actually a really great sounding board for me because I reached back out to a lot of those people that I talked to. And I was like, hey, how would you have changed your advice, or like, how would you kind of cater your mindset if you were put in a situation like this? So that was really helpful. But yeah, it was honestly college.
Just college.
And I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, so I'm going to ask people who do. And X led to Y.
I think about college and the search process a lot, or I have recently, because I give tours and things like that at Duke, and I just remember how like enveloped in this process I was, and how I felt in high school. I had to be doing 800 things. I literally started a club because I was like, shoot, I haven't started one yet.
I started a fencing team. I literally started our district's fencing program, a women's empowerment club, and I started this like Meatless Mondays program where, like, because I've been vegetarian all my life, I was like, okay, I'm really into sustainability. Like, let's make our school lunches meatless every Monday. Like, I did not need to do any of that, honestly. And it was good, obviously. It gave me great experiences. I'm not saying I regret it, but I was like, man, I knew all the staff at my high school. I knew everyone. And it's a giant high school. It's like 2,000 people at this high school. It's ginormous. I did not need to be doing all of these things. And sure, maybe it didn't lay a great foundation for like who I am now, of course. But like, I was so engrossed in like doing everything I could to like stand out on an application, be this other person. And I actually think it ended up backfiring. I don't know if that happened for you.
No, I think there's this concept of, oh, you're doing everything because you're trying to do that. And it's like, you're going to demand that we work so much and do X many things. And then you're going to say that none of, like, we did too much. Like, where is the line? Where's the balance? Because it's just not adding up.
No. And it's like, do all the APs, do all this SAT prep, like, be the best student, the best athlete, the best, like, have the best extracurriculars. Like, what do we not do? That's the question. Yeah. And honestly, like, I'm looking at my sister, she's younger than me, and she's going through like the same process, and I'm like, oh my God, like, what a terrible place to be, honestly. And like mentally at that like moment in adolescence, like, it's so much to take on to the point where it will literally break you. And it's done that for so many students.
Yeah.
And maybe that's hindered their success, and not because it's their fault. It's honestly the system and what we're expecting of these young people.
Yeah. I'm curious, in your conversations with other GenZers and things like that, like, has this been an active conversation that people have been pushing back against? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. I mean, It most definitely is. Like, that's the
Okay.
answer. I think like everyone kind of feels this pressure to be doing things, and
Mm,
a lot of that is social media, and I write about that in the book. It's this like I can literally log on to Instagram, to TikTok, to LinkedIn, even if
yeah.
it's a more professional kind of lens that I'm trying to take, and look at what someone's done and be able to like quite literally like tell you the dates that they've done it from and like what their
Mm-hmm.
experience was. Like, you can get a really good picture of what someone has done. And that's like a little scary, because then you're like,
Yeah.
wait, what have I done in comparison to this person? Like, I feel like
You
this person
start
is
playing the
right.
comparison
And then you're
game.
like, wait,
Yeah.
am I like smarter? Am I dumber? Like, and all of these like other questions come up
Right.
that really don't need to be in conversation. But at the same time, we're trying to take care of our mental health. We're trying to
Yeah.
like, have these conversations, but they're almost juxtaposed with the reality where it's like, okay, we can take as much time. We can like maybe deal with burnout. We can do all the things that we're trying to do, but these pressures aren't going to go away. You
Mm,
either find ways to deal with them, or like are really engrossed in your work, or have found some sort of purpose. But like at the end of the day, if you want to go to college, you have to go through the process,
right.
right?
And then I feel like now we're seeing with Gen Z as we're moving into like we're getting jobs, we're getting internships, things like that. Like you, a lot of us have multiple things going on. And it's not necessarily like, oh, I'm working like part time as a barista here and I have like a full time. No, it's people that are doing things like writing books, who are hosting podcasts, who have a social media like there are people out here that are doing a ton, and I feel like companies don't even know what to do with us when we
Yeah.
come in with this.
Yeah. And it's funny because I was talking to Danielle Faraj from
Ah,
LinkedIn,
I
and
love
she's
her.
the best. And, we were talking about gig economy and how, like,
Yeah.
kind of when we're looking for jobs as Gen Zers, we expect a level of flexibility, and not a lot of jobs consider that. But I know, like, even at the hedge fund I worked at this summer, like, I was working two other jobs while doing that, plus like going to events, plus like just having a life,
Mm,
and that's another thing we need to consider as Gen Zers. Like, work can't be life. I
right.
know I talked to you about this last time, but kind of having this line between work and home, like, we don't have that, or it's not clearly defined, and we don't know what that is because we've never known it. And that's
Right.
another thing. Like, two things that I feel like Gen Z doesn't know how to handle is this kind of like line and relationship between personal and work, and
Yeah.
also like this notion of privacy, because we don't have it. We've
Mm,
always been online. Like, I always accept cookies. I always accept like, things on
right.
the internet. So I'm like, they know everything out already. Like, me not saying this is not going to do anything. It's just not.
No. It's like
So
if
we've
I'm gonna
known
have my phone.
right, like, we're still all on TikTok, like, we're
Yeah.
still doing whatever. Like, it's not like, anything privacy related like does not bother me genuinely, because I'm like, if you wanted to know about me genuinely, you
Yeah.
can.
Like the information's there. You can
Yeah,
find
yeah.
it.
Like, you can go look at it. Like, if you type up my name on Google, you can find
Yep.
literally whatever you need. Like, there's videos from 2017 on there that I don't want anyone to go look at. But there are.
Right. So I'm like, where you're at now with, you're 20, right?
18.
Oh my gosh. No way.
Yeah.
Wild. As you're moving into your 20s though,
Yeah.
is is this what you expected your life to look like?
It's a tough question, because
Right.
I think yes, unfortunately, because I've seen it, and like, it's been a lived reality, so I'm not
Right,
expecting
right, right.
anything else. But I hope it's different. I really do. I hope that's not the reality, and I hope that employers are starting to understand the nuances of Gen Z and listening to their Gen Z
Mm,
employees. I feel like there's this lack of listening, especially in certain fields as opposed to others. And I think there needs to be more collaboration and consideration, truly, for Gen Z.
right.
Yeah.
And you're a Gen Z consultant, correct?
Yes. Yes.
What does that mean?
Basically, telling brands how to market to Gen Z in a very authentic way. And
Okay.
authenticity is a word that I use a lot in the book, and also just in general, because that's what appeals to Gen Zers. It's not the, I think that's a big difference between millennial marketing and Gen Z marketing is like, millennials buy into a more like idealized version of life and kind of like a really filtered, like, really Instagrammable version of life. And not that that's a bad thing, right? That's what those were the pretexts in which like they lived their 20s, right? And are living their 20s. For us, it's more of like, okay, let's keep it real. Like, let's make the craziest joke on TikTok. Let's say what I've been thinking for like the longest time. And like, I just haven't had a space to say it. And that's what resonates with us. So yeah, it's basically, sitting down with brands and being like, hey, so your marketing needs help. Or it needs like work. It's not resonating with me as a Gen Zer. It's not appealing to me, and maybe I do really need this product, or maybe I really want to buy this. But like, this is how you could sell it to me, and this is how it will actually like be something that makes its way into my home or into my cart and on my card statement. So that's basically what I do. Yeah.
It's so cool that that's an aspect that companies are really beginning to consider and pull
Gen
people
Z
in to talk
is a gigantic like consumer base. And for companies not to market to Gen Z would be a sore mistake and reflected in their revenue. Because we have actually immense spending power compared to other generations earlier because of the reason that we're working jobs. Like,
because of the gig economy stuff.
Right. I have disposable income that does not come from my parents, that is fully me, and I'm spending it. So I have more agency over the money, right? Like before, maybe you get an allowance or you get, some sort of money from your parents or whatever that situation looks like. Now, I can spend my money however I'd like to. So, maybe I'm more interested in something more, convinced to buy something that's marketed to me as opposed to marketed to my parents that are telling me, hey, like, go buy this, or like, this is what I think you should buy.
Yeah. Gosh, it's so interesting just to think about how different our experiences were from people like 6 years older than us. And then I'm terrified of Gen Alpha. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know what's happening.
People ask me that all the time. They're like, wait, are you going to write the book on Gen Alpha? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't know the first thing. Like, I can't. No. Sorry.
It's wild to me.
No, it's crazy.
Like, when thinking about Gen Z right now, September 30th, 2022, what is your one piece of advice or wisdom or reflection that you want to give to all of us just right now, like as a community?
Yeah, I would say two things. One, if you have an interest, an inkling of an interest, like truly anything that's like sparking, a little anything in your heart, go and learn about it. Go like throw yourself into it, throw yourself into any interest because you can. Right. And like, don't be the sore, like 30-year-old that's like, wait, in my youth, I could have like done this. You can. So do it, like just go for it. The world is at your fingertips. But I caveat that with my second point, take the time that you need to like heal and rest. Like, I think our generation truly has gone through so much, and that I cover in the book. Like, we've lived through a huge recession. Like, we are a post 9/11 generation. We are a generation that's like experienced hate, trauma, like true like social difference, and like honestly just turmoil. So that comes with a lot of baggage that we need to carry, and it's almost very integrated in our lives, and that's not how people have lived, prior to us. So, take the time that you need to heal and to, be the best version of yourself. And that's not a linear process. That's not, something that you can just, go to therapy for, or just, like solve with an X solution. It's a constant process that needs to be integrated into your life. So if that is like, working out or, but everyone's heard the same things. And I know like it sounds a little like, just run of the mill, but it does look different for everyone. And I think even myself, like I'm no hypocrite. I'm trying to integrate that into my life in some way, shape or form. So yeah, those are my 2 points.
I love. Okay. And then where can people find you? Like if people are like, frick, I need more Riya, where are you?
I'm primarily on Instagram, not on TikTok, only because I don't have storage. And once I get a new phone, I will be back on TikTok. And that is the true honest.
Classic.
That is the true honest reason, and it is in my Instagram bio. I have no storage. So my Instagram is Riya.Goel_, and that is where you can find me. That is where you can find the link to the book and all the things. And yeah, I post a lot to the point where I think I'm shadow banned, but get me unshadow banned.
I love. And then, okay, and the final thing, just quick check-in. On a scale of 1 to 4, not 1 to 10. We don't do that around here. There's too many options. So it's just 1 is like the worst,
Right.
Loosely, 4 the best.
Okay.
How are you head, heart, and soul?
You know, I'm going to say 3, only because,
Okay.
you know, and I don't think I would have had that answer even like 2 weeks ago. But I will say, like, you know, I've been taking time to just do me, you know, and
Just do you.
I'm a 3. I'm a solid 3. Yeah.
You know what? That's good, because there's only 4 options.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, Riya, thank you so much just for like hanging out today. This is so good, and I'm gonna be following you on Instagram. We're gonna be catching up. Like, I gotta get my hands on this book. I still haven't had it yet. But thank you so much for coming to the Yellow Room. And yeah, I will talk to you soon.
Sounds good.